Hi there, my name is Simon Wootton and I'm the Pupil Wellbeing Officer at Blackburn Rovers Community Trust. The Community Trust is the award-winning charitable arm of Blackburn Rovers Football Club. Our aim is simple, to positively impact the local community in whatever ways we can. Services we provide include upskilling young people and adults through our education and welfare programmes, creating new opportunities for those in need, and improving the health and well-being of those we serve. The Community Trust itself is self-funded, currently has over 40 full-time staff and engages with more than 40,000 individuals locally every year, inspiring people to come together under the famous Blackburn Rovers badge. My position is the Pupil Wellbeing Officer and I'm responsible for managing and delivering a very special programme in secondary schools called Premier League Inspires. Inspires is a support and mentoring programme which focuses more on personal development and pastoral side of education, which we aim primarily at pupils in Year 7 who've transitioned from primary to secondary school. As with a lot of things in life, sometimes you have to be in the right place at the right time, and that was essentially what happened with my post at Rovers, rather than being some sort of long-term goal as such. I actually joined the club just before my 41st birthday, and my 20-year journey to get here definitely wouldn't match up with most people's perception of a traditional career path. I left high school not really sure what I wanted to do. My biggest interest was in economics and in commerce, so I actually completed an undergraduate degree course in international business at Lancaster University. It was an amazing experience because the course actually allowed me to spend my second year studying abroad at the University of Florida, which was incredible, and it matured me very much as an individual living on my own in another country. After spending my first couple of years in roles working for a high street bank and for a small financial research company just to get on my own feet, I took my first degree level role by joining Deloitte, a Big Four professional services firm, as corporate tax analyst in 2002. But being perfectly honest, I found the whole role to be interesting, challenging and well paid, but realised quite quickly that I wasn't using the skills that gave me real job satisfaction. So after 5 years working in finance, I decided to be really brave, come out of my comfort zone and try something a bit different. And I retrained as a primary school teacher. In my experience, teaching was everything I hoped it would be. I loved absolutely every second of it. I was really lucky and was able to join a brilliant team at a local primary school called St Francis, which is in Blackburn, and I spent 14 very happy years there, ultimately proving I probably made the right call to leave my role in finance and prioritise job satisfaction. But without doubt, as amazing as teaching is, the role can be incredibly demanding at times, both in terms of the hours needed to do the job to the highest possible standard, and the feeling of being constantly alert towards a very different mix of needs of your pupils. People who know me know me well and know that I'm a very passionate individual, and instinctively I give everything that I have to my work. But ultimately that same devotion probably caught up to me. I became quite unwell in 2018, largely due to the emotional burnout from doing my role. And it was a while I was away from work that I probably realised I wasn't looking after my own well-being enough, and that I'd actually probably have to manage my work-life balance a little better going forwards. A really hard decision because I absolutely loved my role. So armed with my teaching qualification and my background in finance and a chance to pursue a new opportunity, I actually began writing to local organisations to see if I could take on some voluntary work until the right full-time opportunity came along. Blackburn Rovers was one of those because of my love of football and sort of the involvement I had in primary school sport. They were one of the organisations that I wrote to, more in hope than in reality. And as it happened, the club were recruiting for a specialist education role at the very same time. So the fit couldn't actually be much more fortuitous given the role and my prior experience. I also had some modest connections to the trust from my time working in school, where Rovers had delivered at St Francis after school clubs, which had obviously helped with my confidence to ask questions about the organisation and reach out. A typical day for me involves working in one of our two current partner secondary schools, delivering one-to-one mentoring for pupils who've been chosen for support from the programme. It mostly involves face-to-face conversation in an informal setting, which could be a walk around the playground, a kick around for football on the 3G pitch, or time in a quiet area to help pupils relax, for example, depending very much on the needs of the pupils. My role is to listen and facilitate personal development, so there's a lot of empathising and self-reflection involved. It's non-judgmental, and that's something that most people find really positive about Inspires. The actual role itself is quite subtle. I don't tell pupils what to think because that would defeat the object of the programme, and this is why Premier League Inspires is such a brilliant experience for its pupils. It's about finding opportunities for growth based around an existing set of personal needs and then inspiring those pupils to become the best and most confident and healthy version of themselves that they can be. I feel really privileged to deliver it. I do have office time to handle the administrative parts of the role, like data collection and so on, much like most jobs, but for the most part I'm actively out delivering each day, trying to make a positive difference in people's lives, which is something I absolutely love to do. My role also involves having connections to the wider football club. For example, I'm involved in most match days here at Ewood, which is phenomenal for me because I'm just a big kid at heart with a lifelong passion for football. I'm lucky enough to have some great interactions with the players and other members of the wider football club, including the academy, the ground staff, media teams, for example. I actively seek out opportunities to get to know more of the club staff and assist on their projects too, because it really hits home how broad of an operation running a modern day football club is. There's a huge variety of skills needed to make it a success that don't involve kicking a football. Over the course of my career, I've evolved to become a big believer in the concept of focusing more on short term. It's because it allows me to appreciate my smaller, more day-to-day successes rather than focusing too heavily on the bigger and long-term goals, which can often take a while to give you some real job satisfaction. So recently, seeing some of my project and wider work I've been carrying out for the club repeatedly featured in matchday programmes has to be up there with the most memorable. I think that's because I grew up with a love of sport, and I remember my dad buying a match programme at practically every sporting event we ever went to, so much so that I've come to associate them with some of my happiest childhood memories. It's a novelty that I doubt is going to wear off anytime soon. However, speaking more widely, probably the most memorable moment on reflection were the feelings associated with deciding to retrain as a teacher back in 2005. I had a lot of people that knew me at the time that were questioning why I was willing to give up such a fantastic role with Deloitte when I'd worked so hard to achieve that point for a number of years. And I was worried they were right, but standing on my own 2 feet and taking a risk turned out to be the right one for me on that occasion. And it's why I'm a believer that sometimes you just have to roll the dice. Okay, so this will probably sound a little bit corny, but I really can't think of a worse part of my current job because I feel very lucky to be here. In my past roles, certainly when I was an accountant, I think it was possibly the routines and responsibilities weren't very varied for me. While in teaching, it was possibly the feeling of being permanently switched on, like there was always more that you could do or another problem to solve or an extra resource that could be made, and I found that very difficult to manage. But here at Blackburn Rovers, I get to work with an unbelievable team, and to be honest, I thank my lucky stars each day that I'm doing something that I love unconditionally. Perhaps the hardest part, though, is when the team doesn't quite get the result or performance that the fans were hoping for in a given match, and you suddenly find yourself amongst a minefield of unhappy voices on social media and so on. But then football can be very emotional at times, and in the heat of the moment, sometimes we all say things that maybe doesn't always reflect the truth, and maybe sometimes the hard work of the manager, the players, the rest of the football club that goes on behind the scenes away from the public. But to be fair, that's part of the game, part of the role, and thankfully, at Rovers we tend to do quite well on the whole. As for the best part, making a difference, a real difference every day to the lives of others. I don't think that I had a difficult childhood by any stretch of the imagination, but even I think I would have benefited from a mentor in this capacity to help guide my development and give me the confidence to take a few more risks in life. So when I look at pupils in school now, especially with some of the incredibly challenging circumstances that many young people are facing, particularly with the pandemic, I think it's programs of support like this that are absolutely vital. It's probably why Inspires has been such a huge success so far, and it's why we're keen to expand our offering to other local schools in the near future to help support their pupils and staff as well. Like most roles, the more skills that you have, the more potential you're going to have to utilise them in a way that makes you successful. As a project manager, I definitely need to be detailed, organised and good at planning in the first instance, but I also need to be a good evaluator as well, because the growth of any project depends on your ability to reflect on what you do well and the areas in which you can develop it. You also need a lot of determination and ambition to see those changes through at times. As a mentor, being a teacher has been really helpful because it's given me a thorough understanding of the inner workings of a school and the ways in which I can support teachers, staff and pupils best. But in no way would I say it's a prerequisite for a mentoring role. The key skills are mostly around wanting to help others, around interpersonal skills, which help strengthen your key relationships. For example, you'll need to be a skilled listener, somebody who can empathise with others, and then somebody who finds creative ways to support that person's development without telling a young person what to do or think. Being passionate about helping others is vital because you're going to invest a lot of your time and emotional energy into lifting others up and bringing positivity, perhaps when it's been lacking for them in the past. I'd also say it's really important to be humble as a mentor. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes and we all learn from our choices, good and bad. And communicating this is often the first step in giving somebody else the support they need to succeed in life, let alone in their career. First off, as for any role, follow your passion. You spend a long time working and simply treating a job as a means to pay the bills only can become really demotivating over time. Having a passion means a lot of your work will never feel like an obligation, and that's one of the best things I've found about my career. In my experience, finding the skills you enjoy using is always the best way to start any career discussion rather than looking at job locations, salaries and such like. If you love sport, there are so many roles out there, but most of them are hidden behind being, the adoration of the athletes you see on the TV. So first, be assured that working in this industry is always achievable, even if it's not as a player. I've never scored a goal for Blackburn Rovers, but I couldn't be prouder to pull on the badge and represent my football club in the local community. So start by information gathering about the types of roles that exist and see what piques your interest. My best advice would be to pay attention to the jobs that are advertised directly on club and industry specific websites. It takes time though, so plan ahead and monitor the sites methodically over say 12 months or more rather than just doing random spot checks. And that way you'll be able to build up a fuller picture of different aspects of a sporting organisation. And remember, all organisations are dynamic. They all need a mixture of different skills to succeed. And if you can offer those skills whilst working in an industry that you love, it can be really rewarding. In terms of advice, I'd recommend that it's never too early to start volunteering in the industry. I'm a big believer in proactively writing to organisations and volunteering your time rather than waiting for an opportunity to present itself. Most may get knocked back, but it literally only needs one letter to land on the right desk at the right time and it can make it worthwhile. Not only does volunteering earn you valuable inside experience about the types of opportunities within a business that you're interested in working in, but it also helps make new professional connections who one day might become your next employment reference or even a provider of your next professional opportunity. And I think as well, on top of that, it demonstrates a lot of willingness, which is something that employers really value. With that being said, being able to evidence anything on your CV which demonstrates the skills that you are looking to use in your career or want to develop further is always a good thing to recruiters. Mentoring in particular requires strong interpersonal skills, so doing any purposeful activity which demonstrates that is a positive thing to do. So seek out those opportunities and there's a good chance it will pay off.